Hi everyone, this is Marilyn Hickey. Now before we get into this, I want you to realize something important. I'm not really Marilyn Hickey. I am an AI creation of Marilyn Hickey. So I want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. So today we're going to walk together through one of the most powerful and hope-filled stories in the Old Testament, the life of Joseph. This story is not just history, it's a living testimony of how God turns pain into purpose, betrayal into blessing, and suffering into supernatural favor. Joseph's story begins in a family that was complicated, emotional, and sometimes messy. Does that sound like anyone you know? Joseph's father was Jacob, the man God renamed Israel. Jacob loved Joseph deeply because Joseph was the son of Rachel, the wife he loved most. Yet we cannot talk about this family without mentioning Leah, Rachel's sister. Leah was Jacob's first wife, the mother of many of Joseph's brothers. And here we see how family tension began long before Joseph was even born. Favoritism created wounds. Comparison created jealousy. Hurt feelings grew into bitterness. Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob, and the Bible tells us Jacob gave him a coat of many colors. That coat represented love, favor, and destiny. But Joseph's brothers did not see destiny. They saw competition. They saw favoritism. They saw something that made them angry. Joseph had dreams from God. He dreamed his brothers would bow to him. He dreamed his family would bow to him. He shared these dreams with his brothers, and they did not celebrate. They resented him. And here we see something very important. When God puts a dream inside you, not everyone will applaud. Some will misunderstand, some will resist, some will oppose. One day, Joseph's brothers decided they'd had enough. They threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. Think about the heartbreak of that moment. Betrayed by his own brothers, rejected by his own family, carried away to Egypt as a slave. This is when many people would quit. This is when they would give up on God. But Joseph did not quit. Joseph did not surrender. Joseph kept trusting. Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Joseph served faithfully in Potiphar's house. God blessed everything Joseph touched, and soon Joseph was placed in charge of the entire household. But trouble was not finished yet. Potiphar's wife began to pursue Joseph in an immoral way. She tried again and again to seduce him. Joseph refused. He chose integrity. He chose obedience to God. And here we see a powerful truth. Favor does not mean you will avoid temptation. Favor means God gives you strength to overcome temptation. Potiphar's wife became angry when Joseph refused her. She lied about him. She accused him falsely. Joseph was thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. Let's pause right here and say yuck 3 times. Yuck, yuck, yuck. That was injustice. That was betrayal. That was unfair. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. And here we see that God's presence is not limited by your location. God is with you in the palace. God is with you in the prison. Joseph served faithfully in prison and soon was placed in charge there too. He interpreted dreams for fellow prisoners, the cupbearer and the baker. His intentions were correct, yet Joseph was forgotten for 2 more years. Forgotten, overlooked, waiting. Say yuck 3 times again. Yuck, yuck, yuck. But God had not forgotten Joseph. One day Pharaoh had troubling dreams. No one could interpret them. Suddenly the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and interpreted the dreams. 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh placed Joseph in charge of Egypt. In one day, Joseph went from prisoner to prime minister. And here we see that God can change your situation in a moment. Joseph prepared Egypt for famine. When the famine came, people from many lands traveled to Egypt for food. Among them were, ironically, Joseph's brothers. Yes, the brothers who betrayed him, they bowed before Joseph, not recognizing him. The dreams God gave Joseph were coming true. Joseph tested his brothers, not out of revenge, but out of wisdom. He wanted to see if their hearts had changed. Eventually, Joseph revealed himself and forgave them. He said something extraordinary. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. That's powerful. That is so powerful. And here we see the heart of the entire story. God can take away what was meant to destroy you and turn it into something that saves others. Joseph invited his father Jacob and the whole family to live in Egypt. The family was reunited. Healing replaced bitterness. Provision replaced famine. So God replaced all of it with restoration. Now we come to the powerful conclusion of Joseph's story, Jacob's blessings to his son. Before Jacob died, he spoke prophetic blessings over each son. These blessings revealed the destiny of the tribes of Israel. Let's walk through them together. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. Jacob said Reuben had strength and dignity, but lost his birthright because of instability. This blessing means that power potential without discipline can cost you your destiny. Simeon and Levi were next. Jacob spoke of their anger and violence and scattered them among Israel. This blessing means uncontrolled anger brings division and loss of influence. Judah received a powerful blessing. Jacob said the scepter would not depart from Judah. Kings would come from him. This blessing means leadership, authority, and ultimately the lineage of the Messiah. Zebulun was blessed to dwell by the sea. This blessing means trade, connection, and prosperity through commerce. Issachar was described as a strong but willing to bear burdens. This blessing means hard work, service, and endurance. Dan would judge his people. This blessing means justice and discernment. Gad would be attacked but would triumph. This blessing means resilience and victory after struggle. Asher would enjoy rich food. This blessing means abundance and provision. Naphtali was called a deer set free. This blessing means freedom, speed, and beautiful words. Joseph received the longest blessing. Jacob spoke of fruitfulness, strength, and divine favor. Joseph's blessing means supernatural increase and God's protection even in adversity. Benjamin was called a ravenous wolf. This blessing means courage, boldness, and strength in battle. And here we see the beauty of God's plan. Every son received a destiny. Every son received purpose. Every son received a future. Joseph's life teaches that betrayal cannot cancel God's calling. Delay cannot stop God's promise. Pain cannot erase God's favor, because God is still working behind the scenes. Joseph went from pit to palace, from slavery to leadership, from prison to promotion. And here we see that God's timing is perfect. God's purpose is unstoppable. God's favor is faithful. My dear friends, Joseph's story proves that God never wastes your suffering. He turns it into testimony. He turns it into blessing, and he turns it into destiny. Thank you so much for listening to me talk about the life of Joseph. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you stay tuned for more possible Marilyn Hickey AIs in the future as well. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time, everyone. Bye-bye.